Hello, welcome to another episode of Unlocked. I'm Scott, and today we are talking to Mr. C. Lee Smith. He is the CEO and founder of SalesFuel, and that is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Well, not kind of, we are going to talk about sales for sure. This is beneficial to all of you out there who sell anything, which is everyone. You're selling ideas, you're selling products, you're selling services, you're selling yourselves, whatever you're selling, this is applicable to you. And we make it applicable to all of you in every sphere. So take a listen. Did you know that 1 in 4 people don't think salespeople are credible? 1 in 4? Now, yes, that's salespeople, but how many of you leading companies are also not seen as credible by the people you lead? That's a problem. And if you want to build influence, if you want to sell anything, an idea, a direction, yourselves, you need to pay attention to your own credibility. We talk a lot about sales credibility because that is what Lee talks about, is sales credibility. He's written a book about it. He has a whole company built around it. He's got an app around it. He's got a podcast around it. He was mentioned as one of the world's leading sales consultants by Selling Power magazine. He's got his own show, Manage Smarter. It's on iHeart Radio and C-Suite TV. He's got his book. It's called Sales Cred: How Buyers Qualify Sellers. And we are going to talk about all this stuff. So stay tuned. Here we come, Lee. Lee, so good to see you again.
Good to be with you again, Scott.
Yeah, it's we've had a couple interactions so far. First of all, meeting at a conference, and then me appearing on your show, and you guys are great hosts. It was fun being there, and then you so graciously agreed to be on my show because
I really wanted to be on your show, so I'm glad that you accepted it.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you accepted as well. So that's awesome. Let's get into this a little bit, because you are, in my mind, kind of this sales master. I mean, you are eating, breathing, sleeping, thinking sales all the time, and what it takes to be credible as a salesperson. You've written about sales. You have developed products in relation to sales. I mean, you live sales all the time, but credibility is a big thing that I talk about in leadership a lot, right? We've got to be credible as leaders.
Yep.
Let's talk about that as well at the angle of salespeople and why that is so essential to unlocking their potential as salespeople.
Absolutely. And that's why I wrote the book Sales Cred: How Buyers Qualify Sellers, which I have over my shoulder, that shoulder right there. And, and I did that basically when I realized that, what I've been doing for the last 31 years is actually helping salespeople become more credible and being perceived as credible from buyers. And it becomes even more important now that, the buyers have even more control over the process. Our research shows that buyers have already tried to solve the problem, have already consulted internally to solve the problem, have already talked to their existing vendors before they even will take your call, answer your email, and everything like that. So before you even get the opportunity to compete for the business, they've already tried to solve their own problem in a multitude of ways. And so the thing about credibility is that particularly when we're selling professional services, that we all want to be trusted advisors. We all want to achieve that status. So it's like, when they have a problem, they come, they consult with us and everything like that. The issue is that, so people have been talking about trust in sales for a long time. Nothing new there. The thing is, like, how do you earn that trust? And the thing is, you can't have trust without having credibility. That is a prerequisite for earning trust. And the reason for that is that all the other salespeople that have come before us, they've cut corners, they've made exaggerations, they've done whatever they felt like they needed to do to make the sale instead of to actually help the customer. And so what's happened is that that's created a river of distrust between salespeople on one side of the river and the buyer on the other side of the river. So sales credibility is the bridge that you need to bridge that river of distrust, so that people know what you're talking about, they know you, they like you, they believe that you can help, and they believe that you have their best interest at heart, much like a good leader.
Okay, so then let's talk about how do you build that credibility?
So, I put together the hierarchy of sales credibility in my book. And it really starts with the foundation of being known, which is what the internet says about you. So that gets into personal branding as one aspect of it, although personal branding is not the same as credibility. Personal branding is how you want to be thought of. Sales credibility is how they actually think about you. And so it really starts with online, because they're not just then, if they've gone through and they've tried to solve the problem and now they're looking at other vendors and looking outside to new things to be able to solve the problem or achieve the goal. It's not always about pain. They're not just looking at the company. They're also, that 61% of them are actually researching you as a salesperson, so that when you reach out to them, whether it be through LinkedIn, email, phone, whatever, that they want to know who they're talking to. They want to know what you're all about. They want to know what you stand for. They want to know if they're going to enjoy working with you or not. And if they feel like there's some cringeworthy stuff that they've unearthed about you, or some things that they just don't like or something like that, they're less likely to want to do business with you and to take that phone call and engage then, in their buying process. So it really starts with that foundation then of, what does LinkedIn look like? When someone Googles your name, do you show up? Particularly with the younger generations of buyers that are coming in, not just the millennials, but the Gen Zs, even more importantly. It's like, if you don't exist on Google, you don't exist. So, what are you doing out there to build your credibility as an authority, as someone who knows what they're talking about in their particular industry, so that they can believe that you actually know what you're talking about and you can solve problems. So it really starts right there.
Okay. So I hear you talking about not just the word credibility, but I also hear things about the character that you may have, right? I don't know, the ability, the chemistry that we have together, our ability to jive. Like I enjoy working with you has to be part of that. So there's a relational part as far as the credibility part, I think. And then, so is what I hear you saying is that, and I also have to be competent in my thing, right? But I hear that those things are all building up to lead to that end goal of credibility. Yeah or no?
Yeah, I mean, there's really 4 pillars of credibility. The first one is being known. So it's like, you might be the best person to be able to solve a problem or achieve the goal, but if nobody knows who you are, nobody can find you, it doesn't really matter. So there's that. The other one is being likable. I mean, you do have to make an effort to be likable, and also avoid saying things that make you unlikable. So there's that. Always have to act trustworthy, so high integrity is absolutely important. Credibility, a lot of people think that credibility is just doing what you say you're going to do. There's a lot of other steps that lead up to actually before you even have the ability then to do what you say you're going to do. The fourth one is being helpful. So it's like, if you're pushing a product, you're pushing a product of the month, or let's say an event sponsorship or whatever. It's a cookie cutter package that you offer to everybody, and it's really not tailored to anybody's specific needs. Then how helpful is that? And your help. Are you being helpful? Is that your motive? Is to be helpful, or is your motive then to make a sale? And so those are the 4 pillars that, before we even get into the hierarchy of sales credibility, you really have to focus on those 4 things as an individual, as far as your journey toward being credible.
Okay. Being known, likable, trustworthy, and helpful.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Good stuff. And as leaders, as salespeople, as employees, as spouses, as whatever, we're selling things all the time. I think those 4 things are really applicable to all of us all the time. And
all the time.
I mean, if we think about it, like that's a big deal, right? Yeah.
I mean, the best leaders are also great salespeople. Because it's like, not only we're selling ideas, we're making a pitch then, for funding, or we're trying to get buy-in internally. So it's like the best leaders are always selling.
Always. Okay. Let's talk about buyers and sellers. Okay. And that relationship and qualifying a product or a service or somebody that's selling to them. And I'm being selfish a bit on this call, Lee, because I need, some advice. Selling's not my favorite thing to do, right? Now, I believe that through what I offer, I can offer a lot of liberation and a lot of help and a lot of clarity and a lot of structure, right? But I think a lot of us, we're on that line of like, oh, I don't want to seem too sleazy, because nobody wants to be the, the quintessential used car salesman,
Right.
whatever stereotype, right? And it's like nothing against used car salesmen, but that's the stereotype. And it's kind of like, I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to be like that. And so we like shy back from it. What is that?
Well, that's an image problem. I mean, so if you look at salespeople in movies or on TV shows and how they're portrayed, it's like, doesn't matter whether it be Glengarry Glen Ross or Wolf of Wall Street or, any other movies, that you can think of recently where salespeople are portrayed, or like, that's how they're portrayed. I don't want to be that guy. No salesperson really wants to be that guy, but that's an image problem that salespeople have. And that's what leads to 1 in 4 Americans don't believe that salespeople are credible in what they say and do, because that is the image that they have, going into it. So as salespeople, we start behind, in the relationship. We don't have the upper hand in the relationship, hardly ever, but we certainly don't start out that way, because in the back of people's mind, in the buyer's minds, like, is that one of those sleazy salespeople or whatever? Are they going to lie to me? Are they going to trick me? Whatever the case may be, are they always going to try to close me and do their little trial close and everything like that? And that's the problem that salespeople have, and that's what we have to overcome, and that's why credibility is so important.
Is it imposter syndrome too? Is there an element of imposter syndrome in there too? Like, because I feel like I'm a good guy, and I feel like I can build relationship and rapport with people. And I think people like me, and I don't feel like I come off. I feel like authenticity is part of who I am. Right. And I feel like people get that vibe from me, but yet I still don't want to be too pushy. Right. I don't want to be too much of this and too much of that. And like,
well, that's because you're self-aware. So that's the other issue that salespeople have, is that we're so busy trying to make the sale and go through our sales methodology and our little sales process and everything like that. We don't take a moment to think about how we're being perceived by the buyer. And so you mentioned qualification. It's like, as salespeople, it's like, we spend a lot of time talking about and thinking about, how we're going to qualify the buyer. What's their budget? Do they have the urgency? Do they have a problem I can solve? Will they buy enough to be an enterprise account? Do they fit my ideal customer profile? And the thing is that we've got it exactly backwards. What we need to be thinking about is how the buyer qualifies us. And so when they go and they do the Google search about our company, what do they find? When they do the LinkedIn search then about me as a salesperson, what do they find? Do they see somebody then that actually knows something that's going to be able to help them, or not? Or can they not find me at all? So it really becomes about what they think of us and what that perception is. And that is really, the crux of what sales credibility is all about. It's those little things that we say and do that have a big impact on whether or not we're perceived as incredible or uncredible.
Incredible or uncredible? That's good. I like it. I'm gonna make a t-shirt.
I'll buy one.
Okay. I'll give you credit even. So that's really, really good. So, all right. So let's talk about that then. Because you that's a mindset shift, right? It's how is this person qualified? Is this person qualified? Is this person qualified? But on the other side, it's really about how do we appear as credible or qualified to the person purchasing what I have to offer, and how am I serving that need? So what are sellers looking for? I'm sorry, what are buyers looking for? I said it the other. So what are buyers looking for from sellers?
Well, the number one thing they look for is they look for experience. And so that causes a bit of a challenge then for the younger salesperson, that's new to the game. And that's why I took Sales Cred, the book, and actually turned it into an app. The idea there is to try to help younger salespeople, inexperienced salespeople. Doesn't matter your age, what really matters is like how long have you been in the game, and trying to help them have that higher level of self-awareness, improve their people skills, and of course improve their sales skills and their business acumen on top of that, so that they can be perceived as more credible, and also giving them more of the back-end research that my company SalesFuel provides to sales teams of all sizes across the country. And giving them that information so that they can bring value, relevant value, as I call it, then to the sales call without expectation of reciprocity. And that is how we help the younger salesperson, become more credible. So those are some of the things that we put into the whole concept of credibility.
Okay, so you've got experience. That's one thing that
Yeah.
they're looking for, and you're providing that with the company and with the app and things like that. You're solving that problem. That's super great. What else? What else are buyers looking for?
So they're looking about, do they know my company? Because it's like, if you don't know my company, you don't know my business, and I can't expect you to know how to help my business. Can you bring new ideas to me every day about how to improve my business? Bring me new information. Be a credible source of information. Using credible sources. So, if you're using a source that, let's say that you're dealing with somebody who's very conservative, and you come in there and you're bringing articles from the New York Times, well, that's not going to be perceived as credible. But you can take that same article to somebody who's more progressive or whatever, and it's like, and it's absolutely credible because they believe in the source. So, there's that. So it's, do they know my business? And then the other thing is, do you know my customers? So a lot of salespeople, again, we're thinking about, my customer is the buyer, and they're thinking about, my competition are the other salespeople that's trying to take the account away from me or trying to make the sale instead of me. And instead, we need to be thinking about, who is the buyer's customer, because that's who the buyer is trying to delight every day. That's their source of income. And if you can make the buyer look like a hero then to their customer and enable them to do that, then it's like, you've got a friend for life. And also, it's like, they're battling every day against competitors too. So who are their competitors, and do you know who they are? And do you know what the other competitors, have as advantages and reasons why customers buy from them? And so that you can address those issues as well, and help your buyer to be able to deal with that. So it's really about turning things on its head a little bit, instead of being so much in your own world. And it also, as a manager, when you're dealing with sales methodology, a lot of sales managers are in their own little world about, okay, what's the process that we need to do to be able to fulfill this, internally. And instead of thinking about, what is the buyer's process? So it's all about changing. Instead of thinking about how I'm going to sell, it's thinking about how they buy and how I can help them buy.
That's awesome, because here is where my brain's going. I'm thinking everything you're talking about, right, is so powerful for that sales individual. And for me as an entrepreneur to think about, what do I need in order to sell more? And I got to get out of my own head and my own space and be thinking about them and their space. But I think about this too as a leader, right? I think about, hold on a second. So it's not always about me and you conforming to what I need, but it's really me understanding who you are, understanding your background, as an employee, right? Or and understanding how I can help you fit into what I have to offer, not forcing it, not treating you as a cog in my machine, as somebody who's just going to give me, right, back. But it's, how do I provide you with new ideas, you with new opportunities for growth, you with all these other things, so that then there's some, give and take a little bit going on, right?
Yeah, well, I'll make another parallel for you, because in sales, it's like, to be a credible salesperson, you have to ask smart questions. And the only question that's really a stupid question is the one you should already know the answer to, but you just didn't bother to do any research to find out. But it's like, so asking smarter questions, and we call that the discovery process. And the thing is, like, what kind of discovery process are you as a leader doing with your employees? So number one. Number two is that, if you're not asking the questions, then you're going in blind, and you're also being perceived as somebody that doesn't really give a damn about them. Same thing applies in sales. And actually, believe it or not, Scott, there's actually something worse than you can do than not asking questions at all. And that is asking the right questions, getting the answers, and doing absolutely nothing with that information. Because then it just looks like, okay, I gave them this information 6 months ago. They've done nothing with it. They must not care. They must be checking boxes, going through the motions and everything like that. And so what happens the next time that, that management and leadership goes and asks questions? It's like, I gave you this information 6 months ago. You did nothing with it. It's like, why am I going to even bother?
How many times have we done that? Have we said, okay, I need to act interested, so I'm going to ask the question. And then I am going to hold that information, just not do anything with it. It sits in my file. I don't reference it. And then I come back to you 6 months later, and I might even repeat the same thing back to you. And they're like, I told you that 6 months ago. And you're like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And it's like, how much are we showing that we are invested in those people, right? Who we're serving. And this is on all fronts, right? Who are we serving and who are we serving? Are we serving ourselves? Are we serving the customer, the client, the employee, our spouse, right? Are we serving them the way they need to be served? I think that's really, really brilliant. We talked a little bit about, you mentioned something with the younger people when we talked about experience, and that caught me. I put that a bookmark right there because I was like, hold on a second. That is interesting because I've been talking a lot about multi-generational leadership lately. Right now there's 5 different generations working in the workforce, right? And some of my clients I'm working with, and a lot of this clashing happening is because you've got the old school business development model that is out there, right? And you've got the good old boy, we're flying everywhere. We're meeting for lunch. We're going to go play golf and we're going to shake hands. And that is how you make deals, right? That is the deal making formula. And then you've got the others, the younger generation that may, adopt some of that mindset, but there's also other things that they're doing, but there's experience with the old school, old timers, right? And then we've got the innovation with like, how's this clash of the salespeople happening with the generations?
It's actually bigger than that, Scott, because it's not just the clash of the salespeople on the sales team. It's also the clash of the buyers because those generational buyers buy differently. All right. It's like you think about how we would make a decision to decide what restaurant we go to or something like that, and then watch your kids do it. So it's like, and then how we go about buying a new TV set or something like that. Now, then go watch your kids do it. It's crazy that the differences that are there. And when it comes into evaluating salespeople and qualifying salespeople, the older generation is like, it's like, what's his golf game like? What's his family like? How long has he been in the business? Who did he work for previously? The younger generations want to know about who you are as a person. What do you stand for? Are you somebody whose values align with mine? And so they're looking at it from a totally different perspective as the buyer. So not only do we have those challenges, internally on the team, but we also then have them as far as matching up the salesperson with the buyer and how they buy.
So what can the younger salesperson learn from the older salesperson?
Personal relationships. Absolutely. So it's like, there are all kinds of things, the younger generations are great at looking things up online, right? And, how many times have you done the podcast, like where you've had a guest, a potential guest show up and you do your little, you do your prep, show prep, and you go online, you can say, oh, I'm not going to like this guy. Or it's like, oh, this is going to be a long half hour. And then you do the show, right? And it's like, they're amazing. It's like, it was a great time. It was a great, and how many times has it gone the other way where you've looked at, there are things online, everything like that, and you go, I can't wait to do this show. It's like, I've got so many questions. I'm so excited, whatever, and they're terrible. And you really just didn't like the conversation. So the thing about, what the younger people can learn from that is that it's all about the personal relationships. You can look at the data, you can look at, what's online about somebody like that, but you still really need to cultivate a personal relationship. Keep an open mind about, and learn who they are as individuals, and just as, our mothers used to tell us, don't judge a book by its cover, so in this case, it's like, don't judge a person by their LinkedIn profile. But it's like, so the thing is that so many buyers do that already, and we do it naturally as well, but it's like, how many times have we done it and we've been totally wrong?
So true. Okay, so that's a really good one. That relationship part is huge. What about the other way? What can the older generation salespeople learn from the younger generation salespeople?
I think it's about there's a couple different ways I want to go with directions I want to go with this. Obviously the obvious one is technology. And that's what you would expect me to say, but I'm going to take a different angle on this, and I'm going to say social awareness. Social awareness. So it's not just about, so to be a little bit more cognizant about who you associate with, who you hang out with, what things do you like on Twitter, for example. They actually show that you're kind of, yeah, I'll endorse that, because I'm going to share that on my Instagram or my Twitter or something like that. And to think about then, okay, what kind of message am I putting out there about, what kind of statement am I putting out there about who I am? Or if I stay silent about an important issue of the day, something like that, what kind of message am I putting out there about me? So I think it's about having a greater sense of social awareness in general when it comes to current events. And unfortunately, politics has seeped into business. We were always taught, never to mix business with politics, religion, and sex. We don't talk about those things in relation to business. Unfortunately, though, politics, has worked its way into it. So we have to be more cognizant about how somebody that believes politically different than we do, how they're going to perceive what we say and do publicly. So I think that's what the older generations can learn from the younger ones.
We're about to get into politics right now.
Okay. I have some trepidation about that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Hey, we just lay it out on this show, man. No, that's gold. I really love that. So the idea behind your company is to equip salespeople with this data, this information. How does that empower them to then do what we're talking about, to build that credibility, to understand who we are?
So the second level of sales credibility on the hierarchy then is what you say. And it's the ability to ask smart questions. So to be able to ask smart questions, you have to do a little homework. And so what my company does is my company does that homework. We have analysts then that analyze over 450 different types of businesses, over 1,300 different audiences. And what we define as an audience is somebody then that intends to buy a new roof in the next year, for example, or somebody then that wants to go to a boat show, or all kinds of, or somebody then that's looking to switch their health insurance plan for their business. So we do that background research then for the salesperson. A lot of that information available online, which we're able then to go and curate that. But we also then have licensed information that we license from third parties, government information as well. But we also do our own independent proprietary research then to kind of fill in the gaps. So that's what we do then. So by having that information, you can ask smarter discovery questions than your competitors. But then you can also then bring more, the value that you bring, is relevant to them. So, and who decides what's relevant? It's not your marketing department. It's not you as a salesperson. It's the buyer that decides what's relevant to them. And so the more in tune that you can be with that buyer, and the more research and information and value you can bring to the table, then, at the beginning, the more likely they are to see you as credible, to lead to being able to trust you then, so that you get the opportunity then, to give us a presentation, to collaborate with them on a solution, to make a recommendation, and ultimately then make the sale then, and most importantly then, do what you say you're going to do and deliver what you say you're going to deliver after you've made the sale.
Cool. And the book, who is that for?
That book is for everybody. I mean, it starts out, it's for new salespeople because there's a lot of basic sales stuff in there. It is for veteran salespeople then that need to have a greater self-awareness, greater social awareness about how they're being perceived, and to think differently about the sales craft, and thinking about less as making a sale and more about helping another individual, and changing their mindset. So there's that. And, it is, those are really the two groups that I made it for. So really it's for salespeople then that want to be better salespeople. And so it is about a different approach then to how you approach the job, and, and keeping you up in tune then with the changing sales world.
Okay. So we've got the book, we've got SalesFuel, the company. And then you've got the app, right? So you've got this beautiful thing working here. The app itself, is that a companion piece to like the book, or is that a companion piece to what I would use on the website, or is the website like, how does your ecosystem work? How do I feed off of all these different things you have to offer?
Well, I mean, the way we make money off of the app is like, we don't sell subscriptions or anything like that. And we never sell personal information or anything like that. We have a store there where we sell research reports. We have this great thing. We have a social media audit, which will actually go back 7 years and take a look at your complete social media history and your online history then, and alert you then to things that may be perceived as violent or misogynistic, or, drunkenness or marijuana use or anything like that. Little things, again, the little things you put out there trying to be funny, trying to be cool and everything like that. But over time and in a different context, then can be perceived by a buyer in a totally different way. So we have reports like that we sell on the store. But it's like what we do is like, we will do a behavioral assessment, motivational assessment, and most importantly, the values assessment. And then as long as we have a sales acumen assessment that goes along with that, to test your knowledge of sales tactics. And we then identify what your strengths and weaknesses are as a salesperson. And then we provide personalized, automated coaching every single day, giving you a new cred tip every day for knowing who you are as a salesperson, knowing what your strengths are, and so that you can maximize that, but also being aware of, some of the weaknesses in, and giving you strategies for addressing that.
Brilliant. And the app itself is called Sales Cred, correct?
Uh-huh.
And that's on Apple, that's on Android.
Yeah.
Both platforms. Okay. And the book, you can get it anywhere, I'm assuming.
You can get it on Amazon. It's like a great little website called Bookstore, which I really like because that actually then funds independent bookstores. And that's where that comes from. Barnes and Noble, of course, you can get it there as well. And the other great thing about it is, like, I also do a lot of speaking and training on the topic of sales credibility. The sales staffs that I help, for example, would typically bring in somebody like me to teach them how to sell. And teach them a methodology, step 1, step 2, step 3. I don't do that. I don't teach sales methodology. I teach sales credibility, because it doesn't matter what methodology you're using, if the buyer doesn't perceive you as credible, nothing's going to work. So that's what I do, and that's why people bring me in.
I love it. That's a great methodology. Yeah, because it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Well, you have the most beautiful process in the world, but if you're not seen as credible, I'm not going to listen.
Yeah, right. And the same thing goes with leadership, right? I mean, you can go to the retreats and the summits and listen to all the webinars that you want about how to be a great leader and everything like that. And if your staff doesn't perceive you as credible, and you've done some things in the past, that make you seem, not so credible, or they find things out about you that makes you seem not so credible, whatever, none of that stuff's going to work.
You're out. That's so good. Okay. Appreciate it. Lee, how do people get in touch with you?
So you can visit my personal website at leesmith.com. My company website is salesfuel.com. And again, as you mentioned, look up my book anywhere books are sold. Do a great podcast. Had a great guest on recently, by the way, who I'm talking to right now.
You did? Who was that?
Some Skot guy or whatever. He was phenomenal, though.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, I'll check that video. I'll check that one out.
Manage Smarter, wherever you get your podcast. We also do video, which you can go to managesmarter.com on that. And, of course, then look up the app in the app stores.
You rock, Lee. It was so fun. Good job. I knew this was going to be good. I appreciate you being on the show, and look forward to
talking to you, man. Yeah, anytime.
The 4 pillars of sales credibility. Number 1, being known. Number 2, being likable. 3, trustworthy. 4, helpful. Yes, the 4 pillars of sales credibility, but yet they're also the 4 pillars of leadership credibility, as person credibility, right? Those are all the things that are essential for us to lead in this life in any way, shape, or form. So I'm super grateful for those tidbits of information. I love this, the idea that, you know what, there are stupid questions. There are, and they are the ones that you should already know the answers to. So when you go into a conversation, when you go into discussing anything and trying to build credibility, make sure you are informed. Make sure you do the work. Make sure you are invested enough in them to help them realize that you are invested and not asking stupid questions that you should already know the answers to. Talking about the multi-generational stuff. That's a big thing right now. And how do we value each generation and what they bring to the table? Gold. It's all gold, people. So this is applicable to all of you. Please go out, check out Lee's book, check out the app, check out him. He can come to your organization, teach about sales credibility. Yes, there's a billion people out there that have sales methodologies. How many of them talk about being credible? I guarantee not many of them. Lee does. So check him out. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to skotwaldron.com and you can look up the various podcast episodes that I have on that website. You can look at the services I provide. Go to my YouTube channel, like, subscribe, comment there. I would love to interact with you. LinkedIn, I'm there all the time. Would love to connect with you there as well. So thanks a lot for being here. I'll see you next time on another episode of Unlocked.